Hello, welcome to episode 354 of Prog Review. And today, that put me off. Today, it's a David Bowie special. Yeah, do you remember this? This was very nicely donated by a viewer. I can't remember who, because I'm a terrible man. I've got the label somewhere in the big pile of papery labels that I've got, and yeah, this is meant to follow on. Remember we was doing? Do you remember the Crack Rock thing that kind of died in a whimper? It kind of faded out. Well, I was going to kind of, kind of glue them together with the Berlin years, the Berlin Trilogy, if you want to call it that. And I thought this would come in handy. Now I was debating whether to review all three albums, separately, or whether just to go for it and we'll just thunder all through them. And I've decided to just thunder through them because it's the box set, Zeit, 77 to 79. It includes Low, Hero, Stage, and Lodger. I'm just going to briefly skip over Stage because it's a live album, but Low opens the proceedings. If you didn't know this, it was released back in January 14th, 1977. Recorded in 1976 with Mr. Brian Eno, and Tony Visconti at the controls. Well, Eno more comes into his own. Excuse me. I had a tickle coming, and I was trying to stifle it. Did you ever get that? Excuse me. I know a lot of people don't like it when I do that, and they expect me to take it out, but we don't do things here like that. No. You get all the squeaks and pops and everything, and the dog sniffling and coughing and burping and farting. Many burps and farts from him have been attributed to me, and I'm telling you now, it's not fair. Anyway, if you hear any heavy breathing, it's the bloody dog. So anyway, back to Low. Yeah, Tony Visconti produces, but you've got Eno. Eno is the shadow that looms large, and he has more of a hand on Heroes, but we'll come to that in a minute. Now, some of this was recorded in France at the Chateau d'Euville. I know that Jethro Tull went there because I read about it in their big things, in their big releases, in their big things. I'm so articulate today. And in some of it, they did relocate to the Hansa Studios in Berlin, and it's a marked change from Bowie. I mean, you kind of got a hint of what was going on with if you got the Station to Station album, you hear the track Station to Station, it kind of hints at where the direction the Bowie's going in. It's kind of there in that track, I think. And again, Low starts off with Speed of Life, which is an instrumental. Again, I think that's pretty rare for Bowie to start an album with an instrumental track. And what's immediately recognisable is there's synthesizer squirted all over it. There's burbly synthesizer. That's me pretending to be a VCS3 synthesizer. I'm very good. I am available for bar mitzvahs and other social occasions. Speed of Life is great. I love it. It's a lovely little track. Very short, but it's a really interesting instrument. You've got saxophone in there. It really gets me, and that goes straight into Breaking Glass and a lot of humour on this album. Breaking Glass. I've been breaking glass in your room again. No, don't look at the carpet. I've drawn something awful on it. Love it. And very short, 1 minute 52. It's there and it's gone. But all these songs, I like to think that that first side of the album are all kind of linked. Not so much as a concept, but tonally. Well, maybe they are a concept. I don't know. But you get the feeling it's the same characters. it's the same players singing the songs, and they're all kind of related. Because again, what in the world relates to someone being always in their room, always in your room, forever in your room, and then that's my Bowie impersonation. And then in Sound and Vision, blue, blue, electric blue, that's the colour of your room where you shall sit. And again, you get the feeling that all these bits fit perfectly together. And again, I in terms of cohesion, I really do like these songs. Again, What in the World is a great song, a lot of humour in it. Sound and Vision is just, it's up there. It's one of my favourites. It's up there. It's one of the top ones. Always Crashing the Same Car. Again, it's the same. It's fun. There's humour in there, But making mistakes, always making the same mistake. I think it's more as a literal translation to that. Be My Wife, and then A Career in a New Town is it ends that side with an instrumental piece. It's side 2 where things get seriously krautrock, because if you've not heard the album, I'm assuming, oh god, the red light's flashing. I'm assuming that you have heard this album. But if you haven't, I'm going to talk about it. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to naturally pause and change the battery pack before I'm rudely cut off, because I should always do this. I should always. The problem is with these cameras is it shows you two bars on your battery, right? 2 bars, and then it goes like that. I don't like that. But anyway, I'm going to change my battery. See you after the break. And now we're back in the room. The B-side of the album shows you the influence of those German bands and their synthesizers, the influence it had on both Bowie and Eno. It starts with, I can only say that when I'm drunk, I can't actually listen to this track anymore because there's a great cartoon by Adam Buxton, he does the voice of David Bowie and Brian Eno, about the making of that track, and you must see it, and you'll never listen to that track again. But anyway, these songs, you can describe them as soundscapes, synthesized urban landscapes, very, they elicit the time and the geographical area, that being the Berlin Wall, and that great divide between East and West Germany. I mean, it's funny talking about it now, because when I was a kid, the Berlin Wall was still standing. It was in the news. You see the people in the watchtowers with guns trained on, either side, and it was an important political statement. Carving Germany right in half. And it's funny because that's gone, but we still have this music. It was interesting because Philip Glass turned these tracks into the low symphony, and it shows you that even though you could call it like noodling on the synth, that there is some power in that music, because he took those tunes and put it in a different context, in a different musical context, and it still works. I don't know if you've heard the low symphony. I remember when it came out back in the early 90s, I think it was. Got me copy then. God, those were the days. And it's very, very powerful stuff. You have an album of almost like 2 sides. You have this song, run of songs, singy songs, vocal songs on the B side. Again, both of them are preceded and ended with an instrumental piece. And then you have a B-side of purely instrumental music, and it's a great departure for Bowie. And I have a problem because Low is I find it a very interesting album. It's one of it's one of the top ones, and so is Heroes, because Heroes got Mr. Fripp on it, and I find it very hard to decide between the 2 albums which are my favourite, like 2 favourite children. But I think because Low came first, and because there's a lot of really strong ideas there, again, the use of synthesizer, trying to create this audio soundscape, I think we'll give Low the edge. I think we're just going to give it the edge. So in terms of a rating, it gets 5, a strong 5. Weeping Walls out of 5. There's no argument. It's one of those must-have albums. Again, as a Bowie fan, I'm more of a fan of this period. I mean, don't get me wrong, the stuff he did earlier is interesting, but this is where Bowie starts to again reinvent himself over and over again and move with. Again, he's always moving with interesting musical people. That's what makes Bowie interesting, is the people he surrounds himself with. He's a bit like Eno in that respect, is they surround themselves with clever people and reap the rewards from it. None more clever than Robert Fripp, for he features on Heroes, which is the follow-up album. Again, that was released in October 1977, the 14th of October. So in 1 year, there was 2 albums out. So very productive. And these are not weak albums. These are not weak, boring, run-of-the-mill albums. These are 2 incredibly strong records. And from the cover photo, it's the cover photo is it's almost a response to. I don't know if Iggy Pop's The Idiot was out before. Yeah, it was. Iggy Pop's The Idiot. I don't know if you've seen the sleeve to that, where Iggy Pop's pulling a pose. It's almost a response. Same photographer, I think. It's almost a response to that. I think. I'm probably wrong. Anyway, it's again got this amazing, strong album. I mean, the album sleeve for Low was taken from The Man That Fell to Earth. It was a still from that film. So again, very striking. Nick Rogue's. Amazing movie. I don't know if you've seen it. Probably you must have seen these films, but a great film there. But anyway, so it opens up with Beauty and the Beast, which is again it's a very strong track with Fripp's guitar sprayed all over it, and yeah, I mean it's an incredibly visceral track. But you see Bowie almost returning back to, not back to normal, but taking on some of those early Bowie tropes with that song. But again, very, very powerful. This is followed by Joe the Lion, which is a tribute to a performance artist called Chris Burden, I think his name, Burden. Yeah, that sounds right. And he used to nail himself to cars. But it's a great song, Joe the Lion. Nail me to my car, and I'll tell you who you are. Just a great line, and he used to do it. So again, I like. These songs are funny. Because they're true. Heroes. What can be said of Heroes? It's just an epic song, epic guitar line, epic lyric, loads of amazing feedback on it. So good, even I've covered it. Yeah, bad cover version. You must have heard me whittering on about that collection. It's just a great track. Again, it's about talking about the environment and seeing Tony Visconti nip out for a quick smooch under the gun towers, I believe. But yeah, epic stuff. Sons of the Silent Age. Yeah, it's a bit more left field. Got sax on it. It's I like it. It's a bit of a after Heroes. It just seems really weird. I mean, what can follow Heroes on an album? Sons of the Silent Age, and again, it's very, very Germanic. It's you almost feel. I don't want to use the N word, and I don't mean that N word. I mean the other N word, Nazism. You get the feeling it's an allusion, not illusion, an allusion to that culture in that song. Again, it kind of starts coming through the music, and that's followed by Blackout. Which apparently is about what it's about. It's about blackouts, power cuts, and yeah, it's all right. Again, if we turn it over, we go experimental on the B side. I'm going to go experimental on your B side. That was cool. I'm going to keep that one. V2 Schneider, which is a personal fave of mine. Again, you do get that krautrock feel to it, with the hi hats and that and the and the and the use of synth on it. Love it, and it's named after. I mean, Schneider. It was named, wasn't it? Wasn't it supposed to be? It was named after Florian Schneider, apparently. I don't know. Then we go back into the more ambient tracks, again like Low. This is where Heroes repeats itself. You have Sense of Doubt, Moss Garden, New Cone, and the album finishes with The Secret Life of Arabia. You know, which is okay. Kind of, after the Bowie Eno stuff, it kind of, I don't know if it sits well with it. I don't know. But yeah, so that's the B side. So we again, it kind of follows the same pattern of Low, and that's why again for me, a little bit weakened that repetition of format. That's not to say it's a strong album. I mean, I think it's good. It's good stuff. But again, this is what I mean about they're being my two favourite children. In terms of a rating, oh God, don't do this to me. I'm going to give this. I'm going to because I want to put one ahead. You see, I want to put Low ahead. So I'm going to knock half a point off, just for the repetition, just the way that the format is. Because they could have mixed it up a bit, made it a bit more. No, I don't know. So I'm going to give this 4.5 Heroes out of 5. But really, it's a 5. It really is a 5. Again, it's one of those must-have albums. It's suitably epic. Stage, which is a live album, it follows the Low Heroes track listing. Features a young Mr. Adrian Belew on the guitar, I believe, and I mean it's okay, but it's a real interesting mix up of stuff, because you have all this Heroes and Low stuff, and then he throws in like Ziggy Stardust and 5 Years, which grates a bit for me. I don't think they belong together. But you do get a great version of Alabama Song. I love that. I really do love that one. The Moon of Alabama. But anyway, that's for another time. But yeah, so it's an interesting release. And then it's 1979, the 18th of May, and we move to the third of the last of the Berlin trilogy, Lodger. Yeah, Lodger. It's only 35 minutes, he says. No, I mean it really is the poor cousin, because no Fripp. We've got Adrian Belew doing his best Fripp impersonation on here, but it's beginning to sound a little bit derivative by its own standards, because it's following what's gone on before, whereas Bowie should be moving on. He's set the pace for all those kids who are making synthesizer music in Britain, all the Human Leagues and the Gary Newmans and whatnot. He's set the template there, and by the time you get to Lodger, you get the feeling he's following them when he really isn't, but that's because there's a song in it called Repetition. So there you go. Favourite tracks: Fantastic Voyages, good fun. Red Sails I absolutely love because of Belew's guitar solo on that. Look Back in Anger, pretty cool. And boy, of course, the legendary Boys Keep Swinging. Boys will always work it out. But apart from that, it's like I say, bit of a poor cousin to the other albums. In terms of a rating, it's only going to get. I think I'm only going to give it 3 Red Sails out of 5. That's 3 Red Sails out of 5. And again, if it hadn't have followed Low and Heroes, it's a perfectly decent album. But it's like everything else. If you have a run of strong material, it really does sound, a little bit weak in comparison. But yeah, and then that's the end of the Berlin trilogy, and Eno doesn't get back in touch until the Outside record, which I think I covered way back. You have to go back and look at that. And Bowie and Eno hook up again, and again that was meant to be like a trilogy, but it's a shame because it never happened. People didn't get it. Again, I'm going on, but it's a shame that Eno and Bowie did spend a bit more time together. It's a shame that they didn't do like an entire instrumental album. I'd like to have seen that rather than letting the words get in the way. That would have been interesting. But yeah, I mean, 3 very strong albums normally. And of course, I do think you do need to check them out. You do need to check them out because this is Bowie again being ahead of the curve, like he was with his Earthling album. I've done a review of that, and you could find out why I think that album is ahead of the curve when it comes to that particular time and place in music. And that's it, because Bowie looks around, surveys what's the current trend, and runs with it, and creates a movement. And that's what you get with that Berlin trilogy. And this is fantastic value for money. You must, if you haven't got any of these albums, just buy this. It's all you bloody need. All right, and thank you to whoever donated it. Sorry for being so rude as to lose the piece of paper. It's in my pile of paper. I've got a pile of paper here. I don't know if you can hear that, of everybody that sent me stuff. But I need to get organised. I just need to rewind to the video because I said thank you in the video. Yeah. But anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed this me whittering on. It's been a big one. If you're going to have one, have a big one. That's what I always say. And yeah, I've got to figure out what we're going to do next. I'm ticking them off my lists. I'm just ticking. There'll be no more records left, I'm getting through them all. But yeah, the Bowie Berlin trilogy, or Zeit 77 to 79, as the box set calls it. Once again, I do plead to you to join me on the social media via the Twitface and the Google Pluses, and I do implore you to support the cause by giving me your hard-earned currency via Patreon. That's www.patreon.com/lock. I do also ask you to check out my wonderful, wonderful noodlings in the musical department at Darren Lock. No, I'll get this wrong. Fuck that up, didn't I? I was doing so well. At music.darrenlock.com. And of course, there's also this little podcast thing that I'm doing over at Mixcloud, where I play some of these tunes. That's www.mixcloud.com/lock. It's all got lock in the title. You'll find me. And it's lock without an E. Remember that. Of course, thanks for watching. Thanks for having the patience to watch all this. If you've actually made it to the end, according to some of these stats, you're only getting 2 or 3 minutes, and then you all go off looking for hardcore pornography to masturbate to. It happens. But yeah, thank you once again. And I only have one more thing to say. Are you ready? Good. Prog on.